Hey, I'm Ross Neubauer. I'm an engineer for studio and live sound. We're here at my studio today in Hollywood, California, and I'm excited to be talking about a few plugins with you guys. I started engineering records when I was a teenager, growing up in northeastern Ohio. Any opportunity I had in media, I did a lot of live sound for theater and theater design, as well as running a recording studio there for many years, working with bands. I did anything I could until I didn't have to as my career grew. A lot of the projects that shaped my career were the opportunity to work on really large artists with Joe Zook. The opportunities I had to assist and learn the position of being an assistant in those spaces and be exposed to the best way to handle things and the best way to discuss with producers, the most efficient way to discuss with producers of getting records in, consistency, really just show the separation between amateurs and professionals of what's to be expected of how to do this really well, like the Ritz-Carlton, like a 5-star service. I find that tightness really shows these days with the song we're working on, Sweat by Hayden Henderson, because the trust that it takes to be brought on to handle the stereo mixes, the Dolby Atmos mixes, as well as the live front of house mix, is one that requires a lot of interpretation and trust, because now it's gone from really working hand in hand, every tiny detail and making sure we're signing off on things together, to like when we did BBC One, Hayden had to leave and go to the venue as I'm finishing up in the studio with them, approving the mixes, and then it gets sent directly to radio. I'm tuning some vocals and taking care of a few little things, and then gone. And then I have to go to the venue and load in while he's getting interviewed, listening to the first time it's airing. And that's the point that I'm most proud of, is loyalty and trust and understanding someone to further their career and understand what it is like to be an artist, and just caring for people in that way. What lights me up when I've got a mix coming in is, first of all, the song and the voice. If I've got a sick song or a sick voice or even just sick instrumentation, cool, great start. It's really exciting in two different ways. If I have to create some tones, that's dope, because then I really got to flex the engineer muscle. I need to think of inventing certain things, filling out gaps. If there's a feeling that I'm missing in how the drums feel in a space, in the like made up space that we create, then I really have to innovate. But then sometimes the harder one is, wow, this is already great. How do I make it better? What do I do? My biggest thing for me is that I try not to do anything one way. I try not to be a like, oh, I should do this, or oh, I do things this way. I don't start with a template. There's a few plugins that I keep on hand with certain settings that I like, because I know it can get me to a certain spot a little faster, but that's maybe one compressor. Everything else is track presets. I really try to treat things case by case, because nothing's the same. You know, there's a lot of excitement and pressure we feel to make the best product. So we take a lot of pride. That's not saying we're lazy in any way, but it is very healthy, in my opinion, to just relax a little bit. Like, it's just music. And there's kind of a beauty about modern day records and engineering in 2026 and onward. It's been going on for years, where records are kind of sounding shittier. Pardon my French. Some people will be like, wow, everything sounds like shit. The vocal sounds like shit, whatever. But what if that doesn't, and it's actually really cool to someone? Because I think there's a rejection of perfection. There's a rejection of the perfect Serban Bruno Mars mix in a lot of genres, because of this like weird anti-establishment recorded music type of method that both can exist. Both are totally fine. I love both. I love a fancy Serban mix, and I love a bizarre mix from some like 17-year-old producer in Berlin type of thing, because it's sick. And using that innovation of how to do both makes us interesting as engineers. The OX Sound plugins are kind of fitting into this, like, I need inspiration and I don't know where I need to hit something with yet. Like Bloom, I'll find into more of an inspiration, like it's such a wide swatch of what I could use with it. And Soothe, I prefer to not let it go too far creatively. I'll target what it can do, but then I leave it for interpretation to pull bands and grab at harmonics. Spiff is a great one that Mitty Jones inspires me to use more, and how he's applying it on there. I can be reminded, like, okay, cool, sick, that's how you're using that. Cool, great, I love that. And then I don't have to change it. It's already done, it's perfect, and I can love, learn, and use that and move that around within that mix. The relationship for Sweat with MIDI and Hayden was efficient, because MIDI and Hayden suss out so many details in the production, so by the time it gets to me, it's already a record. And then I've got to pick it up and run with it from there. What we've got in front of us today is Sweat by Hayden Henderson. It's produced by Mitty Jones, released in 2024. We're looking at the stereo mix. This mix was worked on actually while Hayden and I were on tour. So it came in from Mitty while we were in the van, got the call, and we're like, okay, this has got to roll. We're on the road. How are we going to do it? This is going to be a great story later. And here's the story. It had been worked on through multiple states throughout the US, in the van, randomly at a lake house in Michigan. We had done ad-libs and some overdubs at Republic Studios in Manhattan. And then it eventually came back to Los Angeles, and we finished the mix here. A lot of the details that we're gonna go into are, some of which already set up by Mitty and Hayden during the production phase. We are looking at little details, not doing broad swatch moves. I'm looking to take what's already great and make it incrementally better. Play the rough mix that I got in too, which would be great.
Physical therapy, come on. Hope you're hydrated, you might need it. I'm committed to getting you your appetite more.
So when I first got the session in, there's a few things I needed to get back intact from Mitty's production session. I needed to get a few plugins working again, had to get a few sounds recreated, and get to like a neutral starting point with the song. So aside from getting the master bus set, had to make sure that the vocal sound was working again. There was a few instances of Soothe on the lead bus, and because that vocal sound was already set, I don't need to reinvent this right now. Let's just go from what works. Let's capitalize on there. So some of that was using Soothe from, I think Mitty may have started with this, and that's what's so great about working with Mitty, is that he's set me up already in a fantastic spot, and then I can just continue to tweak. And I love when another producer is in a Pro Tools session, because then I can actually get into the plugin where it left off and then just make little nudges. I think this specific instance, I think I just pulled the low cut in tighter because I just didn't want it to affect more stuff below 1 or 2K. The way that I like to use Soothe is just very minimally. I like to target what I'm going for. So if we're listening to this post-chorus, let's check out what Soothe is doing with and without in here. So, for context. So ever so slight, right?
You don't need to be girl, you need to.
It's off. Back on. Let's open up a bunch of these vocals.
You don't need to be a twat.
That's without.
Girl, you need to.
Dope, honestly. That's sick. Some of these things I forget. Another one that I think was fun was that this bass sound was super, super important for this record. I'd done like a great example of like a targeted cleaning up of muddy crap in there. Because this is one of my critiques, was just like 250 to 500, like it's a sick tone, but it was getting a little lumpy and in the way sometimes, among a few other things that I was doing to it. I just needed to catch some more stuff that was going on, and let's listen to what that is doing. So you can barely hear it. Let's just, with the depth all the way up, that's what it's taken out at its strongest. So let's then back that off. Yeah, that's what I'm aiming for. It can go overboard really quickly, and I don't like doing that. I like keeping a lot of stuff in there. I'm not trying to make this smooth. I'm not trying to make this perfect. I'm just trying to make space for other things to exist. So if we flip the delta back off, I think it ended up, yeah, pretty much just around more or less 0. So anything less than this doesn't quite activate enough. I play a big game of working back and forth, bringing in the depth, bringing back the depth, flipping on and off, making sure I'm hearing what I'm hearing, and sometimes it doesn't work. I'll just bypass it. But it's important to check what you're doing and critically, trick yourself. A few other things that I was really excited about in here was also the use of spiff on the drums. It became really critical to the drum sound in here. Here we've got spiff on both the snare track and the small drum loop, and we're gonna flip to the delta on that. Super tight transient. Without that spiff there, it would be very 1 and 3 versus like 1, 2, 3, 4. Kind of obsessed with it.
You sound a little frustrated. Show me where the pain's located. You can take it out on me. Physical therapy.
Yeah, that spiff is straight up carrying that hi-hat. And all that ends up summing into Bloom, and that's on a bus that MIDI set up. Bloom is just such a great way if you just need a quick way to lift. Sometimes I just don't want to think. I just need okay, great, hold on, get me there. Give me somewhere, inspire me. So without it.
Girl, you need to Girl, you don't need to be a
I love it. So what Bloom is doing for me here is I don't have to think too technically. I can just kind of feel out where my mouse is moving here. And I think when I was working on this, I was really just vibing on how Bloom sounded when I pushed into it at 4. Because sometimes I try to work as much like an artist as I can, where I'm not trying to think too creatively if I just need something to do something. Just because you've got these plugins and just because they can quickly solve and quickly do things doesn't mean it's necessarily the best thing. I think it's always in my interest to critically analyze, just because I put Soothe on something and it sounds smoother, did it actually do what was necessary to improve the song? And when you're trying to do a mix that is needs 1 or 2% of improvement, you gotta be careful. I've gotta make sure that those decisions that I'm making are critical and accurate. Thank you guys so much for coming out and taking a chance to listen to what I have to say. I just want to remind young engineers and experienced engineers that I don't have all the answers. I just have a bunch of opinions. And I think the farthest thing we can do as humans and engineers is just be inspired and try, and also reject what we know and always learn something new. And remember that we are trying to use art to improve the world and make sure that we are supporting people, and do that with love and look for the people who are vulnerable.